All right, Friday, April 19th, jumping into a session recap here, starting off with ES. We can see that price continues within that price discovery type of move. What we have, remember, big picture context, we come out of basically a 2-month long range, a little less than a 2-month long range here. Price breaks down last week. Coming into this week, we wanted to see primary level of interest for the entire week was the reaction versus this 5195. That gets rejected on Monday. Price pretty much enters price discovery, right? You have the uptrend being broken. You have a big distribution range up here that breaks down. Now we're into price discovery. Not seeing any interested buyers outside of, kind of isolated bounces here and there. Not really seeing any interested buyers really stepping in just yet. So downtrend, intermediate downtrend continues. It's kind of going to continue to be the theme here until we start to see some basing on the daily time frame chart, even on the weekly time frame chart. Now take a look at the weekly, big weekly breakdown. And then also, when we have a move of this magnitude, you want to take a look at the even higher time frame chart. Something like the monthly can really help you see the context here, right? Big engulfing bar on that monthly, actually almost erasing the previous 2 months. Okay, so context, very important, especially, if you're trying to grab some type of dip or something like that, or looking to establish some type of long position, you need to be doing so in the right locations and making sure that you're selling into that first area of resistance, because going long in this type of move is akin to going short, when we had that bounce in early November and then in early December and all through here as well. I mean, this type of action showed a lot more churn compared to the bounce that we had off of the November lows, but it's the same type of action. You don't want to be fading that type of move. Same thing with this short. You really don't want to be fading it unless you have very pinpoint location with where you want to get involved and you understand the risk involved, right? So price discovery continues definitely to the downside. What I'll be looking at and kind of keeping with the theme for this week anyway, what I'll be looking at on Monday is how price trades versus today's low. That approach has served us incredibly well this week, just using that prior day low as a primary reference point on the index. We can see how well that worked out today. That was one of the main watches for today, how ES responded versus that prior day low. Take a look through here. Let me actually get a level on the prior day low so we could see that. Yeah, so you have a couple of scalp opportunities right off the open, even a pullback opportunity here versus that prior day low. It's that white dashed line on the chart here. But once that fails, right, the longs become quite suspect. You do have some isolated scalp opportunities here versus VWAP, but again, no follow through. Always pay attention to that intraday structure. Here's your prior day low, right? Price really fails to sustain above 50.60, which we had mentioned in the pre-market prep live stream as a key area. And the reason is because look at that prior day structure right through here. Right? So price tells the story. It's our job as traders to listen to it, right? So we have price opening within that prior day structure after what was quite a volatile overnight and pre-market session. But again, that bounce versus the prior day low does not result in a breakout of this very near-term structure, right? So a rejection of the 50-60 tells us pretty clearly that, yeah, sellers still in control of this tape. You want to watch for the flush through the lows, which is what we saw, and then the structure starts to develop into that intraday downtrend like we've been seeing pretty much all week. And then you have the bounce here, midday bounce, and this is pretty interesting because, like I always say, that 50 to 61% retracement is always going to be a sell zone when we're talking about the context of a bounce within an intraday downtrend. So price actually manages to bounce almost perfectly into that 61% fib retracement. You could see the signal bar that is granted there, and then how heavily sellers really start to step in following that test. So always keep an eye when you're looking at a bounce like this, or in the context of buying, you're looking at some type of pullback after a big move like this. Pay attention to where price is in relation not only to the intraday structure, but also in relation to the fib retracement. So in this case, we have that 50 to 61% retracement. That's what I call the Fibonacci sell zone, right? Price rolls over and retests the low. So no real surprise there. Intraday downtrend continuing. And then for tomorrow, what we want to see, or excuse me, for Monday, what we want to see is the reaction versus this 5K 49.91 area. That is today's low. So that's ES. Again, no sign of really any sustained buying activity. One thing that is quite interesting here on ES that I'm going to be paying attention to into next week is this overnight low. Now, NQ flushed its overnight low, tech showing a lot more weakness than we see in ES. So this is kind of interesting. If this ends up being a higher low, that will be notable, but we'll know on Monday how that shakes out. This overnight low, you want to keep an eye on this overnight low here from this morning, very early this morning, or actually late last night, 10:15 p.m. last night. So keep an eye on that. ES definitely with some relative strength compared to NQ. Let's take a look at NQ here. So NQ came into the sesh with the same type of approach. Remember, big picture context here. Here's your range, right? Distribution all through here. Daily breakdown triggers on Monday. Price discovery mode. That's just another way to say trend, right? Up or down trend. We have that trend lower. Price looking for any type of value, any type of area where buyers really want to sustain. And that has just not been seen yet, as we could see by the daily bars, right? And so what we want to keep an eye on for Monday, same type of approach as ES. Want to look at how price is going to be trading versus today's low. Take a look at today's action in NQ. We come into this session with that same type of approach. How is price going to trade versus prior day low? And then just use that as the primary reference point for the day. Look at the intraday chart here. This is the 2-minute chart. White dashed line is that prior day low. So you get a little bit of a bounce, right, versus some pre-market structure. Rejection right through there at that prior day low, that 17,500 area after a sweep of the session high. Marks the high for the sesh. Right, marks the high for the sesh. So we know price is below prior day low. What does that tell us about long setups? They are not favorable. We want to be looking at shorts. And if we are considering longs, again, as always, needs to be with a very, very good location. But one of the easiest money trades today in NQ, this pullback to VWAP with that prior pre-market structure, ended up being a beautiful trade. One of the beauties of this trade is that it actually helps to position you for an outsized move, right? So your target's going to be down here, but look how much additional profits you can catch on that if you leave some runners. So some really, really clean action today in NQ in both directions, honestly. Take a look at this bounce here versus the 17,200 level of interest right into initially 17,300 level of interest. You get a 100-point bounce in NQ. And then let's take a look, see if that fib retracement plays out. Not quite there, just shy of that 50%, but you still have the market structure respecting here. So we'd love to see that. So overall, some great action in both ES and NQ today. These are wide markets, continues to be very, very volatile markets. So make sure you're paying attention to how wide your stop is, right? It can catch you off guard if you're not really measuring out the points, because most chart platforms are going to scale according to the volatility. And, you know, if this was a 50-point move visually, as far as on the screen, it's going to look the same as, what do we have here, a 400-point move, right? So the platform will scale appropriately based on the volatility that you're seeing there. So just make sure that, you know, you're throwing a quick measurement and you understand how many points you potentially have of risk. That's going to save you a lot of headache at the end of the day. So overall, good action. Going to be looking at today's low as the primary reference point for Monday morning. Hope everyone had a good session. Hope everyone had a good week. My DMs will be open all week. If you have a question about anything trading related, feel free to reach out. Be happy to help out, answer any questions for you. Other than that, have a great weekend, folks. See you Monday morning. Take care.